Hi, uh, good afternoon. Uh, Good afternoon. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for the what we call coronavirus webinar series at the Warsaw University of Technology Business School. My name is Paweł Urmański and I am director of the school. And today I'd like to invite you for the webinar titled Leadership Shift in the Shadow of Coronavirus. So it's another fascinating topic related to pandemia and the story which dominates today our life. And the webinar will be run by Professor Olaf Żylic, business psychologist and trainer and coach and a friend of the school. And it's a great pleasure that I can actually introduce Olaf to you and say that the school is grateful for his involvement in teaching personal development for many, many years. Actually, he's a creator of this program, and students really appreciate his expertise and teaching talent. So, well, before I just say, okay, Olaf, that you can run. I just like also to invite those who consider to submit his or her application to one of our programs, such as Executive MBA program or MBA programs, Business Transformation or Finance and Technology. You are warmly welcome to contact our school. We are in the middle of recruitment process for new additions, which will start in October this year. So, okay, without further remarks, Olaf, please, the screen is yours, and please start the formal webinar today afternoon.
Thank you very much, Paweł, for inviting me here. Good afternoon, everybody. And that's the moment of the time that's not the floor is mine, but the screen is mine. And the audience, I would like to say good afternoon to the audience. We all learn in recent months how to deal with being together, however, in distance. So today my invitation is to something what I would name story sharing, not storytelling, because I very much believe that, especially nowadays, the coronavirus showed that there's less space and time for experts. However, we have, and I have some expertise I would like to share with you. After my presentation, there will be time, and I will be very grateful to have your questions through the chat and I will try to answer them, or just will read some comments as well. Most welcome. So let's embark on this evening's educational trip, and what it will be here, I guess. Okay, the agenda for tonight, a bit about the psychology of the situation. In other words, in terms of how we in general, we people, we society, we humanity react to what we have with coronavirus, how we can react with, there are the types of reactions and what it has to do for our lives, for our teams, our organization and societies. And then the most essential, the most crucial part is about the leaders' attitudes, behaviors, and this named leadership shift, or it probably better would be to name it leadership shifting, because we so little know till now how it will be, especially globally, well, the big trends will be. We do have some preliminary signs of the trends to observe them. And then some other remarks on workplaces and running, leading the workplace, work styles, and a little about, at the very end, education and research. Situation. First of all, I'm often students also know I love very much the guy and what he's writing. The Nassim Taleb, probably most of you have heard about him, but he's so much appropriate for the time we have. To the left, as you will see, there is a black swan, so theoretically non-existent animal. So very, very unlikely for the people believed it's almost impossible to exist. And we can definitely name, and many do, a pandemic as a black swan event. What does it mean? Black swan, it means that basically the humanity, people were not predicting, or even if we are predicting it may come, we believed that we behaved as if it would not occur. In the very beginning of March, I was returning to Poland for a trip to India, where I was with students of our business school here. And I was so surprised looking from distance. Behind India or above India, there was China struggling with pandemic. And the Europe, when I was reading what's going on in Europe, in Great Britain, and United States, it looked like as if we know that it might, these clouds of murder and other terminology not come, but we were looked afterwards so much surprise. The football was on till almost the mid of March in Europe, which brought especially to Italy and Spain a pandemic on an enormous scale. As if people were not believing that might happen. I will speak about the leaders and this kind of attitudes in a while. Of course, previously we had such events like breakouts of the Second World War or the September 11 events, which changed the game, which changed so much. So Black Swan as an event, unexpected, however, very influential on our lives on the broader scale. With Dr. Joanna Heitman, very experienced consultant, we are running a sort of research, but we are so much interested how people are experiencing what's going on in context of coronavirus, and we hope to get it published, especially to give the voices to people from around the country. Part of the research was numerics. The other part was qualitative. It means people could write, and that's probably the most interesting, the individual voices, reactions of people to how they are perceiving or perceive the pandemic, and in their, would say, the minds and around them. So as you can see, one of the question was on the scale from completely untrue to completely true. The question or the statement was, I have a feeling everything has changed around me. If you look more in more detail on the graph, you would see that the 19 plus 37, so a percent of people, so which means almost 60% of the population. Now we have around 900 people assessed from very different angles and parts of Poland. There's almost 60% of people say it's true or completely true in response. And if we add 27% of sometimes true, we see that at least occasionally, for most of us, this is a time of big change. We don't know, as also our research shows, how it will evolve, but we, so many of us, has a profound experience and believe that the world and our lives and our companies, our firms will be different. Well, the situation, I guess that probably almost everybody, well, might happen that everybody of you heard about VUCA, which is an acronym for describing our, especially in context of digital revolution, our times, which stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. I square it because I would say that the uncertainty is extremely high, and complexity because we have so many more trends, social trends. When you look at the current US, what's happening right there, and we have everything is happening at the same time, from still digital revolution, ecological questions, social riots, fighting pandemic. That's happening, but it's not only US, not only Western world. However, thanks God, in Poland, we are much more blessed with low levels of fatalities due to pandemic than in Western Europe. For a while, in 1.5 months ago, I remember the numbers that say in Belgium, we have, they had like 600 deaths per million people. We had around 20. Or even maybe less than 20. So there are huge differences. Now we are not doing so well as it used to be, but still we had each and every one almost in the world, or big part of the world, we are experiencing the probably the first so global, so universal experience of not coronavirus per se so much for so many people as a disease and the fatalities related to this, but lockdown. Yeah, at least for a moment, more than half of the world population was locked down at the same time. So therefore, I square it. What we have, our sense of security and control of our lives is often diminished. It's a matter of health. Today I was traveling with my very old parents somewhere outside of Warsaw, and both parties, my parents and myself, still were very much cautious about them. Despite the numbers, once again, in Poland are not so bad. But still, we don't know. So many of us, we are reading that the work markets can maybe if not collapse, it may be much more challenging and difficult. The social life, that's how it will be in terms of interpersonal relations we have at home, with our friends, colleagues, and in the social communities. I will speak a little about it. We also, what is challenge, it's our understanding. Yeah, I'm laughing at myself at least a bit. I'm smiling at others when there are people who say, I know how it will be in half a year. My goodness, who knows whether we have in the autumn the second wave, if we at the universities we really return to personal in-classroom teaching, whether we'll have a dramatic GDP decrease in Poland or maybe U-shape reconvalidation of the recuperation of the processes, economic processes will occur. We don't know, and we may have a trouble to understand in terms of sense, what's from spiritual to psychological to any other. Like one of my students has called it, I like this quote, is the pandemic a sprint of marathon? Who knows? Who really knows? So we who are experts in teaching, who are believed to be experts in leadership and economy and sociology and psychology, we can say much less. And of course, it pertains also to the leaders, managers, who are in a position when they can sometimes be much more vulnerable in terms of using the competences to adequately address what's happening, but there are certain chances in this I will address later on. Yeah, now do we really know whether the being is what I see and I know, for instance, the lockdown for family relationships? On the one hand, our research with Joanna clearly shows people say the most valuable things what I discover, and that's the major discovery in a way of discover of sorts, as there are other people, how they precious are to me. So reevaluation may happen, but not necessarily everything will be fine. So these challenges, they might be linked very easily to reaction which Nassim Taleb calls fragility. It means when I have an experience that my words, my style, my behavioral approaches are getting destroyed by the situation. It may be myself, it might be psychologically, I know such people. It might be my business. If I'm an entrepreneur, I know such people who say at deadlock and we are just facing disaster. But on the other hand, this fragility, that's a fundamental question to me, whether it's always bad. And that's what those who attend our classes on executive MBA, they know I love to speak about the humble mind for managers, to be strong, to be assertive and humble at the same time. And this coronavirus times makes us humble, or they invite us at least. As also, it means it can help to be less narcissistic. It can help to go for the advice of the others. To look much more to the external mirror for the credit and contribution of others, and to see for managers and leaders how the things really look are. Resiliency. The Nassim Taleb would say there's a second reaction basic is resiliency. So it's like the Polish government's shield, anti-crisis shield, and that we will manage to resist even if we will drop with GDP or unemployment, we will recover, and we are taking the measures. The issue is the fragility. If we are on this state of mind and practices, we can be destroyed psychologically, physically. With resilience, it's basically that we will survive. It's nothing most often happens new, but it means that we will manage to cope, which is very important. But the very last one, the anti-fragility, that makes the difference. Namely, anti-fragility, as what Nassim Taleb said, the taking advantage of volatile, unpredictable, changing environments and situations, and looking for opportunities. So as we can see, returning to my Indigenous research, the situation, as you can see from the graph, is difficult if we combine the result from sometimes true and completely true. It's big majority of people who at least occasionally through this pandemic times till now found it difficult. It's a real challenge in their life and work. But to juxtapose it, you can see that there I was so nicely surprised, because you can read the graph. It says that 11% of the respondents would say that's completely true, that they completely for their lives, the statement is. So they find in these difficulties opportunities for new openings. That's a new, what we call very often new reality, next reality, will bring something which can be a blessing, breakthrough, and something bringing the positive change. Next 26% would say true, so it's over 1/3. And if we add this sometimes true, we have like around 2/3 of the population measured who say at least occasionally, I believe, and that's very fantastic, that this situation may bring something which is an opportunity for me. So I would say it's a very good example that almost everybody in this sample, a research sample, there were polls, but as you can see, it's not about complaining. Those who see the opportunities, that there are people who believe the reality may bring the positive things, and it's not grumbling. It's looking, as you will see, forward to the future. Yes, that's the major point for today, the shifting leadership. To look at starting from the big perspective, global and political. That's better not to tackle the Polish political scene, but let's. I'm so glad that in America, the Andrew Cuomo, who is not very how to say politely, attractive in the way normally the guy who would say like the Amway type, anti-Amway type of the leader, the governor of the New York State, who would say, and normally he would say, the boring guy, how he can manage and lead the people. But as you can see, 85% of Americans approve of how he's handling the crisis nationwide. Nationwide, it means he has briefings every day, and he's showing the tables, PowerPoint presentation, speaking with not very attractive actor type voice at all. It's not a great television, but it's authentic. He's taking full responsibility and accountability for whatever happens in the state. He never says somebody else is in charge. I listen to people. I had my brother who was ill. I'm with him and I am with you, and I am permanently, and not only in the words. That's from the big picture, something which is changing, and I hope it will have an influence. Let's go a little down to other leaders. What I think is very important, and for you, for us to see whether we are not plagued by the phenomenon, which is, I guess, named first by psychologists. And when the clouds, dark clouds of murder, this negative, difficult, or at least problematic black swans may occur. So the warning signs are fuzzy, and still the potential harm could be large. That's very important. Many leaders behave in ambiguous way. So what it means that they wait until it's like Scarlett O'Hara approach that tomorrow it's also a day, maybe if it's not so bad, let's sleep and let's look. And one of the greatest political figures who was very resolved to face very quickly the challenges of coronavirus was the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern. She's liked and disliked by some others for different reasons. Whatever, in this sense, probably she will be in the books, how as a real leader, pushing against this tendency to downplay and delay this in this situation of the big ambiguous threats. She acted very quickly, resolved, and communicated perfectly, and not making politics, but just addressing the issue. So that's question two, once again, to all of us, how we react. What is once again good, from our research, you have joined us in mine, we ask about the people who are running the companies, and once again, nice surprise, not grumbling, not so much complaints. As you can see, 12% would say fantastically, they're doing good job in time of coronavirus. 1/3, the yellow ones, true, would say, plus almost 1/3, 29% would say sometimes true. I expected much worse, being in almost 25 years in consulting, mostly in Poland, not only, but fairly often in Central and Eastern Europe. I expected that we'll have the almost majority of people who will complain about how my bosses are bad. No, and that's a very, I think, positive message about the capabilities, skills of not all, of course, as we can see, as we can presume, of those who are in executive positions in our firms and organizations in general. I wanted to share with you there was a big research done on the employees. What is the perspective? And especially in the first weeks, what the employees expect from the company foremost. And you can see, not so much surprise to me as a psychologist. First, emotional support, letting employees know that they are being cared for and they should feel comfortable discussing work and non-work related challenges. So that's there are more, and many, even in the, I would say, tough American companies, for instance, say we must and we look for much more time and appreciation to listen to the non-work related agendas at work and that's what is expected from people. And the second things, and the role modeling, I would say, walks the talk. And that's the integration. If always it's important, because especially in Central and Eastern Europe, what I clearly see in moral domain and probably in many other domains, if the executives, the leaders behave properly, they're congruent with their values, standards, and words, it matters, but especially in such time, and it's expressed by the people and this huge research being done. Well, what I named not only for CEO, the McKinsey, the couple of days ago made released a paper on the information and the blueprint for the leaders. I added because I found it really interesting, not only for CEOs. So, but that's surprising, but it's recurrently comes out. It's the agenda of taking care of yourself. Don't preach to the people, behave, take care of your health, of your mental health or your physical health if you are not doing this. And there definitely, because of the remote work, which will be more and more present, especially, and because also of the fact that that's probably also you who are listening to, watching my presentation now, you may have a feeling that you work more even than it was in pre-coronavirus era. This hygienic behaviors are important, but also it's for ourselves, but also so important to others to show them that we do care and that we model properly the behavior. And I like it very much, the quotes that we are to demonstrate empathy, especially in this time, but also to show that we need empathy and understanding from the others. And time ago, it might be perceived as weakness. Now it's more about the human face of the leaders. And I would say, especially from this part of the world, when still we have so much of the power distance, it's still attractive agenda to be considered. First of all, for us managers and leaders to think about it, how we can creatively care about ourselves, create and allow others also to care about us. And what's this time is also good to break the isolation. What's probably is, of course, nothing new to say that very often the leaders, C-levels guys in the organization feel lonely in their positions. Now it's very much encouraged, and it's believed that it's good time to say, I do not necessarily know everything, and I'm very much open to listen to the other views, sometimes contradictory viewpoints, and more democratically operating in the organization, which is good for the organization and for the others to see that you are a leading person, you are closer to people, listening, however, taking decision which I will name later on. Adapt your personal operating model. Well, that's extremely important. When I see so many people, one thing I will highlight here, time management. To know that maybe we should have the much shorter online meetings, to know how to deal much better our tasks at home, especially when we are working, especially from home, because these two realities, home life, private life, and work, blurs, and not always neither it's good and effective and healthy for us. The other big bench of the stuff, if I can say, it's due around, and in many contexts is told that it's a fantastic time to return to foundational maths, to basic values, to name the multiple transformative purpose of the company, to work it out with the people, to discuss with them, and to say we shall overcome and we will manage and we will go for better if we use it, and if we are using this ideological value honestly, value parts of our companies with the people. The problem is in Central and Eastern Europe so often that if we work for the Western companies or not our country's companies as owners, we don't tend to very often believe as something really valuable for our lives and at work. It's like their ideology, their corporate values, their vision and mission, and here is the life. And now it's a time, good time to make these bridges and maybe to discuss and, if possible, to work out more of the corporate lived values in the company's organization. That's time, and I will speak also a bit later on about the mobilizing the troops. It's about the looking how much, if the time is difficult, how much we are really one team, honestly, and taking care and being with people and spending much more time on building this sense of cohesion and not saying, I have no time for being with people, they should be just responsible. What I, as psychologists, I love this calling for new ways of appreciation. We are not living here in the country where, and even I would say the CE countries are not plagued by too much appreciation. So I hope many of the leaders in the region will take it at their personal agenda for the future. And as you can see, though, this personal context, more informal context, more empowerment, smaller decentralized teams with a clear mandate and direction, and more responsibility and accountability. And the last but not least thing I had, being to the stakeholder. Of course, it's different if you have shareholders, but stakeholders like the school here, there will be students, will be those who work for us, will be the university, and the company will have the clients, customers, employees, maybe shareholders, maybe and foremost, the supervisory board. Be with them, speak and explain and show, listen to them and show that you are having the broader vision. You are able to provide this ultimate person that you can speak to the employees and customer about the future and the sense. Coming to the end slowly in this part about the leadership, we can say once again we are returning to the issue of opportunities. The Center for Creative Leadership wrote something which I very much agree, namely that there's a few points they mention. I will try to comment myself as well. Hardship is part of the journey. It means it's for most of very often for the leaders, it's not an easy time, personally, family-wise, business-wise, but that's a fantastic time to conscious and deliberate learning and development. That's a time, what I will speak a little later on about the opportunities to make a transformation, to go to the new dimensions and formats of operations of the organization. And that's what is nothing, I would say, rocket science. I was telling the similar things on some occasions, that what we need is the two types of leadership, namely on one hand, authoritative, on the other, collaborative. My and CCL and mine understanding is that both is very much needed. Authoritative, it means that people need to see that our leader is firm, he has a vision, he's humble or she's humble, but has some strategic vision, looking for the information, but it's capable to take on time, to take decision, and to reassure the people that we can, in a planned way, proceed and look for into the future, and organizing in a decisive way the work. On the other hand, at the same time, we could say it should be the collaborative. Why? To attain what's the author from the Center for Creative Leadership, for me, probably the greatest institution working on research-wise and in terms of consulting on leadership from US, would say we can build direction, alignment, and commitment. If we go to the right side of the table, if we combine the authoritative and collaborative, they say, and I very much agree, we can go to the overall goals. I mean, really, we believe, and it's not just a superficial dimension of our company or firm or organization, but that we are aligned. We agree about the goal, and we are aligned about how we work and what we do. And we have a very good high performing teams, and we have very committed people who have a profound mutual responsibility. Mutual for me, that's what I read and preach. I would say that I do really care how my organization is doing, not only my silos, not only my area of responsibility in the organization. And then with some other guys from the Seaman from Slovenia, and other business school, and we will in the region, we will make pretty soon the research to see how much these two veins of leadership styles are present, giving this new phase, because much more collaborative to the organizational life in the region. Two examples of the from Poland about the shared leadership. This what was here, this collaborative, we can say more or less it's like shared leadership. Collaborative, it means it goes much more down up, and it's shared responsibilities for the organization, and it's so much giving the voice to the much more than it used to be in previous practices in the organization. And one example is of the the students. He's of the executive MBA from this business school here, who called me, and we had just around 2 months after the lockdown, and it was like 4 weeks ago. He was calling me and asking, well, what I should do to make people come back, because I don't want just to for them that they have to do. And because some people, for medical reasons, psychological reasons, some other reasons, they are hesitant or they're in difficulty to come back to it's a very well-known organization. And what I liked so much, that he was humble and gentle in the way, and he wanted to maintain both authoritatively the sustainability of business, but on the other hand, to really care about people. And more even he himself found that he will have to consult with his people to work out the rules, what we accept as the organization in Poland, the practices and standards of returning after coronavirus to work. And another example, I name him, I hope Marcin would not mind, but it's very, very positive. CEO of Vox Group Furnitures, and based in Poznan, who told me, and after months after the lockdown, and probably around the middle of April, he told me, Olaf, it's the most magnificent time in my company with some of people, because we shifted the people, because I cared not to lose, especially in sales, because there was no direct sales possible at all. And they shifted at least some of those people to business development. And he told me, never ever, we had so committed, so responsible, and so creative people in my organization, making the things up. That's very innovative organization, to believe they can, as a group, as a team, they can be so successful and so committed and so responsible. How to be very short about communication, but being a leader, it's leading the communication. The INSEAD programs would say the fair communication, being very transparent, quick, on time, but also being capable, as you see, humbly to say, I don't know certain things. I need your help, or I need some other help. Honesty, direct messaging, not hiding, not looking for excuses, not postponing. And also to still remember being leaders, that we should, with our information, to be honest, to be very frank. Sometimes that might be difficult when we have to decide about layoffs in the company because we haven't managed to survive as a full team. Be very still the ones who are working for the sake of stability and guidance and the organization. So I would say, look for the feedback from the employees, for your coworkers, for your peers, very honest feedback, how it works, but also when, and to look for multiple channels of communication repeatedly, much more, meeting the people, and also informal contexts. And as you can see, after you have taken care of yourself, it comes back. Okay, how our workplace will change. There are many, probably you also have read about it. Certain things also for leaders, managers, organization itself, they're important. So one of the most obvious, and to me, the major game changer will be the fact that so many people will say, okay, maybe I will leave at the seaside in Poland and still will work in the school to large extent. And I want it. Yeah? And it's turned out we believe that it's not possible in so many, not only schools, but in so many businesses. And the live coronavirus showed us it's possible. And then, so if it means that we will work, and there are the estimation that on average it will be 30% of time at home or remotely operated work, especially in Poland, it will be enormous change, enormous. Why? I would say that for Central and Eastern Europe, we are facing the big challenge, namely it was so often we are not making enough more flexible formats because the mistrust of the manager's organization towards the regular line people in the organization was so often so big that we prefer to have people in the offices. And we can see it may work, not always as the perfect, but it may, and it will be a great game changer. Headquarters, maybe as it's written here, much more of the status symbol for the big meetings, not for the for the regular spaces for work. And the new types of relationship, that's especially interesting for psychologists, work psychologists, to see whether the pandemic will change how we perceive each ourselves, whether we have this more brotherhood and more trust or not. That is my question mark here. Less definitely traveling. So often I hear now that and read that the special and business organization, we realized, organization realized the traveling probably is much less needed, and so it's costly and much less effective. Well, what we'll have, the elaborate conference centers, the medical screening, and it will last. What we see, the Cushman and Wakefield, for instance, offered over a month ago new designs for the offices with much more distance between the islands, islands, as you can see. So very quick anti-fragile adjustment to the changing realities. But it's told that especially 9 to 5 office times will disappear to large extent, not fully. That's maybe well paid, or already it happens in some organizations like Twitter, for instance, paid people for staying home for their expenses. It could be especially for those who take care of children. Anyway, and the world still most often for the young mothers, it could be much better to have much more flexible formats of work. Some preview, however, my question mark, whether middle management will disappear as a group. That's not clear. Definitely more digitalization, automation will be needed and will be accelerated. And however, as digital and technological divides to be bridged, because what we see as in the Polish school, for instance, there are so many thousands of children, for instance. Of course, there are schools, but that's our society, who are dropouts because of coronavirus. So remote work as a future, and the new practices will be needed. New involvement of people redefined will be needed. And what I like extremely much, the analysis which say that we should be very conscious and evidence-based make research how much we can afford full remote work, hybrid remote, or partly or on site, depending on the value delivered by the people. However, we may have the great talents working for us, and like this school from New Zealand, say, much for the office. Why not? So we will redesign how the offices will be set. Probably it's the most of the spaces should be for collaboration and meeting rooms, not just open spaces, as we used to see, with much more also flex spaces. And the last, my goodness, about the space, that's and the habits, and that's we have this elbow bump and Wuhan shake almost everywhere. Education, very shortly, two things. Scott Galloway, the magic guy from Stern Business School, he believes that many business schools and universities, smaller especially ones, some especially private, will close, will not reopen after the coronavirus. My guesses are the much more online executive education will be praised and valued with lower prices, and with the value of the certified courses will go up. And some, like MBAs, I very much believe, still with a personal experience will be still so much believe that with personal contact and experience with other peers will be valued. Research, I very much believe it's so much needed. The research in these changes in organization and leadership, and not only in leadership. Unfortunately, most is from the West, from the United States and Great Britain, and we need it definitely. As I love the phrase which says Poland, or we could say it says already not Moscow, but not Paris yet. We are not worse here in Central and Eastern Europe. We are different. So what the managers and leaders will have to learn, I would say, to know themselves more, to learn new technological solutions, which is especially for my generation, it's a huge opportunity, an enormous opportunity, but also a challenge. How to manage much better effective remote meetings. We have this whiteboards, non-synchronized meetings, and then changing the formats. We have to do really much not to have the passive participants of the remote events, meetings, and education. How to motivate and teach people who are often at distance. How to inspire and to tell inspiring stories, involve others too, and learn and teach your people to retell them to the rest of the organization. And how to combine decisive, authoritative style with a collaborative one. And the last slide, I would say what's very positive is that so many people look forward to the future, what I wish you as well. Thank you very much. We have a couple of minutes for the questions or comments. If anything shows up on the chat, I will try to answer if there are any comments or questions. As far as I know, the presentation will be available on the school web pages if you were interested, and there will be contact to me if it's of any interest for you. Thank you again. Okay, if we don't have questions on chat, once again, if you want to write to me, and because once again it's sharing your experience with mine, I would be more than curious, and it's not rhetoric phrase that I'm interested, not only in research. Thank you very much from Mashar Kamangar. Okay, thank you very much. And see you in the school, see you on the organization. If you have the questions about as regards the executive programs in the school, I think I'm person capable to explain how the especially personal development can, in the context of the leadership competences, can evolve in the school. But don't feel obliged to study here. We are, as you can see, open. We have as a school also free of charge consulting and meeting. Thank you very much once again to everybody for being with us. Thank you.